Thank you to all of you who take the time to be here. I so appreciate it. And I know that the others who take the time to be here, they appreciate it too. I think that this time that we have in the summer of asking questions, yes, I could use more. So thank you, Elle, because if you have any, put them in the basket in the back. I always like to get some new things that I can explore. And you give me such good questions. Oh my. So, I thank you for all of that too. There's something about questioning that I think it just comes to us that we need to do this because I truly think the universe is calling us every moment of every day. Keep questioning and knowing and understanding what this life is all about. So I'm going to go right to the first question. Came from somebody who wants to know
Something. Yeah.
I like to get it the way the person put it. Must we search for our divine purpose? Must we search for our divine purpose? Well, I think first we have to know what our divine purpose is. And to know that, and I know you heard me say this before, that we have an outer purpose and an inner purpose to our living. And the outer purpose is all the things we do in this life. And we do a lot of things, important things. And some not so important. But that is that outer purpose. The inner purpose, which is primary, is all about our beingness. It doesn't have anything to do with what we do. But it is closely related to what we are. You might remember in one of Wayne Dyer's books, he recalls a college class that he was in, and the professor was giving them a test with one question. What are you? And the professor said, if you answer this with anything that you do in this life, like what your name is, and what your job is, what your hobbies are, what you like to do, you get an automatic F. And the professor then just walked out of the room. Well, Dyer looked around and he saw perplexed looks on people's faces. Huh? What's this about? And he said, you know, it's not a trick question. It's really quite easy to answer. What am I? I am divine spirit. I am. I am that I am. I am spirit. I am the Christ. Now, recognizing that is one of the most important things we're ever going to do in this life. And then opening ourselves to that emerging presence and letting its light shine out in the world through us, that's our divine purpose. You are spirit expressing in this world. You are the Christ expressing in the world. And so, your divine purpose then is also to be the best expression of the Christ that you can be. And sometimes I think I really fall short of that. But that is my divine purpose, and it is yours. Every one of us has the same. And so this then, the confusion that we have about what we do and what we are. Isn't it interesting that people just don't seem to understand this? And I, for a long time, did not understand this. I don't know if you understand it. But maybe we need to keep saying it over and over so we really get it. Our divine purpose has nothing to do with what we do. Now, I know that in this life, we do a lot of wonderful things. That still is not our divine purpose. You see, we could do 10,000 different things. We could do 10,000 wonderful things. But if we do not allow the light of spirit to flow through us, shine through us, and out into those things that we're doing, then we're only doing them halfway. We aren't expressing our potential. Then we are only doing a little of what we could do. We are only being a little of what we could be. I'd call that lukewarm. That's being lukewarm. And lukewarm is not the way to live. You know how I know that? Because I used to live that way. Lukewarm. There was no passion in me at all. Oh, it was there, but I sure wasn't letting it out. Because I was way too concerned about if Audrey was happy. Way too concerned about things that I was going to do in this life that were somehow going to fulfill me. Well, yes, they do. But I didn't understand that I had to pour that spirit light through me out into the world. And then I was doing something. Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet, said, lukewarm does not reach into majesty. It doesn't. Lukewarm does not reach into majesty. It can't. And we are here to be majestic. Majestic, wonderful, spiritual beings. That is why we are here. So I want to tell you, yesterday was Sparkle Day. And so we came together then to clean. There was no lukewarm. It was all energy. It was all joy and enthusiasm because we were coming together to do something. Oh, it needed to be done, but that really wasn't it, was it? Did you have a good time? No, you didn't. Bossed around all day. Well, somebody has to be in charge. I hope it wasn't bossing, but you know, sometimes some direction needs to be given, so I know how to do that. I think, yeah, and I think I'm getting myself in deeper and deeper. But what I'm trying to say is that on this Sparkle Day, when we come together to clean, you know, cleaning is next to godliness, right? And we need to have a clean place where we come together. I mean, look at this platform. It's just beautiful. I mean, I can't believe it. All the stains and spots and everything is gone. And the people who did it were enthusiastic and filled with joy. Now, see, we don't have any sacraments in Unity, but the church made the sacraments, so I think we can make some too. So I'm going to call the cleaning ministry a sacrament. Because it's a sacred thing when we come and bond together like that. In a common purpose going beyond ourselves. And so I began to think then, what else is a sacrament? Well, I think the coffee pot is a symbol of a sacrament. Think of what happens when you say to somebody, well, let's go have coffee together. What does that mean? Let's go be together. Let's talk together. Let's find out about each other. When we have coffee after the service, well, come on, let's all do this. And we sit down and we talk. That's sacred. Why not a sacrament? There's something else. How about hugs? When we give that spirit touch through us to someone else, and we say, I accept you, I love you, I honor you, that's a sacrament. Am I going too far? I don't know, sometimes I think that that's a silly thing to even say things like that, but maybe not. Maybe we have more sacraments in Unity than we know about. It's possible. So what I know then, and what was I talking about here in the first place? We were talking about inner and outer and the purpose and the divine purpose, yes. Okay, thank you. I so appreciate you. You pay attention. I love to go on to another question. I don't know, have I answered that at all about divine purpose? Okay. We're going to go on to another question. This one I almost crumpled up and threw over my shoulder because I thought, you people ask the very best questions and they make me ponder and research and do all those things, but it's good for all of us. So this one was, it had two parts to it. What is Unity's view of free will and or predestination? We'll take a deep breath. I mean, it sounded simple when I first read that, and then I thought, wait a minute, there's a lot more to this. What is will? What is will? It is our determination to do something. We're preparing to act in a certain way. So we say, I have made up my mind. That's will. Will in action. I've made up my mind. We can also lose our will. When someone is at the point of transition, and this is the way my girlfriend's husband put it to me, she lost her will to live. Life was too painful, it was too hard, she lost her will. As human beings, without will, we are nothing. We can also have a sense of will that is selfish. And then it becomes destructive, egotistical, and that could involve all kinds of things about being greedy, dishonest, taking advantage of others, not caring about anyone else but ourselves. And when it comes to that point that we are only interested in the world of form, that becomes our adversary. We can also participate or have a will that is a universal good will. And then that says that we are to become the gods that we were created to be. Now, will is a God-given gift. So remember the gifts we went through last week. I'll say them again, and then know that all these 12 gifts that Charles Fillmore designated, they also correspond with colors, tones of the musical scale, and the 12 disciples and the energy centers in our bodies. So those 12 God-given gifts are life, imagination, power, the gift of judgment, understanding, zeal, which we had a lot of yesterday, zeal, elimination, faith, love, order, strength, and will. Will is a divine gift. Now, we have free will in how we choose to use those gifts. Don't we? Yeah, I think free will is really quite obvious because we stand at the crossroads every day and we get to choose how we're going to use our will, how we're going to use our love, how we're going to use our imagination. But now we need to define what is God's will. And my, is there confusion about that. Some think that God has it all arranged. There is a definite plan for each of us, and we're just here as robots, just kind of following that, hoping somehow it's going to turn out good for us. As a 10-year-old girl, when she was asked, how do you decide who you're going to marry? And she laughed, she said, well, we don't decide that. God decides that long before we're growing up. And then we get to see later who we're stuck with. I'm not gonna say that's true.
Bitters.
No. But you see, that's a child speaking. But there are many adults who believe the same thing, that God interferes with our lives. And to some he gives good things, to some not so good, to some punishments, to some suffering. That is not God's will. So what is it? What is it? It was years ago when Dell and I were at a early V8 Club of America meeting. I knew I'd get that all out. And so the people who came, we knew a lot of them. And this one man came in carrying a book. And of course I thought it was a card book. Had to be, but it wasn't. It was The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. And he seemed so impatient. I found out later, over coffee, that he wanted to ask some questions and he wanted to read me some statements from the book. And he said, I don't get this. M. Scott Peck says that we must surrender to the will of our Creator. He said, I can't do that. I don't know what God has in store for me. I have no idea. Maybe what God wants, I don't want. I can't do that. So trying to explain to him was like talking to the wall because he was not getting it. So finally I said, look, you only need to know one thing. So I'd suggest that you write it down. And it's this. God's will for you is absolute good. He just stared at me. Huh? God's will for you and me is absolute good. God's will is for you to be successful, for you to be healthy and happy and joyful. It's to be wealthy if that's what you want. That's God's will. He just continued to stare at me like, what? I said, keep reading the book. And maybe you will understand by the time you get to the end of it. I never did find out if he understood. That was many years ago. But hopefully he did. Because God's will for us is good. And nothing but good. The belief that God gives bad and good all at the same time is false. This power that lives within us gives us only good. It's we that get it all screwed up. Isn't that true? So God's will is determination, it is purpose, it is desire of this one creative spirit of the universe that is seeking ever greater expression through all the creatures in the creation. Seeking that expanding potential in all these creatures, of which we are the most expandable. And I might add, we are also the most reluctant. God's will, then, is the triumph over, well, let me say it this way. God's will is love, that triumph over hate. It is life over death. It is love. Did I say that? Love over hate. I said that. Okay. It is light over darkness. It is abundance over lack. It is joy over unhappiness. I'm talking God's will now. This is the triumph. This is what this power has in mind, if we could say it that way. That there is liberty over bondage. I think you get the idea. But this is where you and I enter in then. Because we have free will. And we can choose love or we can choose hate. We can choose liberty or we can choose bondage. Now, I read in a scientific paper that we really don't have free will because we're nothing but complex robots. Because we make all our decisions based on the consequences of the past. I had to think about that for quite a while. All our decisions are based on the consequences of the past. Well, I suppose in a way that's true. You know, I picture myself sitting in a jail cell, and I've never been there, by the way. But I can imagine it's not a good place to be. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, all my past life has brought me to this place. And now I have a decision to make. Am I going to continue with this life that's going to put me in jail again? Or am I going to go a different way? Again, standing at the crossroads, what am I going to choose? So yes, I think that what we have done in the past colors, but still in this given moment, I still have free will to choose which way I'm going to go. Now, if someone doesn't agree with me, raise your hand or forever hold your peace. No, really. I think that we all have our ideas about this. We truly do. And I think we need to have our ideas about this because each one of us has the authority within to know if this is right for you or not. Just because I'm standing up here doesn't make me the authority. You have the authority. It is that Christ within you, so you know. God's will is absolute good. Does that sit well with all of you? Does that feel good to you? Let me explain it this way then in closing. No, let me tell you something else that happened before that. Yesterday as we were cleaning, the phone rang. I answered it, and a woman on the other end said, "Oh, I didn't want a person, I wanted the inspiration line. I wanted to hear a prayer." Oh, I said, okay, well then I'll just not answer when you call again. And she said, oh yeah, but I have a question, because as long as I have a live person on the line, I want to ask a question. Oh, goody, I love questions. And so she said, I don't know anything about unity. Do you believe in the Bible? Oh, yes, I said, the Bible is our basic textbook, and the teachings of Jesus are what we follow. Oh, great, she said, then you know that we are all sinful. It was time for my mouth to hang open. And I said, no, full of sin, no, we're not that. I said, we are God's beloved, and that's all I got out of my mouth, and she hung up. It was that she didn't want to hear about the goodness of God. She was more comfortable with sin. I understand that. I came from there. So I get how that works. And I bless the woman. But isn't it interesting that she found it was so good to listen to the recorded prayers, but when it came out of the mouth of a live person, no. So all we can do then is bless. That's fine. For her, the will of God was not how I see the will of God. So now I close with this. The caterpillar in the cocoon does not know anything about the beautiful winged creature that it is to become. It knows nothing. And yet within that little worm is the design of that caterpillar. Within that little worm are the elements of what it is to become. It's just that that little thing doesn't know anything about that one day It's going to soar. It's going to be able to go wherever and see all the beauties of the world from up above. Well, we're a little like that too, because it isn't very apparent to us what we are to become. I need to back up a little and say to you one thing. There is something in which you and I have no free will. Can you imagine what that would be? Yeah. So I am going to give you a Bible verse. I'm going to interject this here. In the Bible it says that we are made in the image and likeness of God, which means that we are to be that manifest expression, that perfect pattern of the image of God. In Genesis, in the 17th chapter, the first verse, it says, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be thou perfect. Listen to that again. I am, the I am of me, God Almighty. Walk before me. Be me in this world. That's what God is saying to you. Be me in this world and be thou perfect. Because that is your destiny. You are predestined to be perfect. It's all in here, and you are destined to be that radiant, perfect expression of God. So we think of predestination as God controlling us, with God having this plan for us, and becoming even maybe what we don't even want to be. It's nothing like that. It's a different kind of predestination. And the thing is, we don't have free will in that, but it's okay with me. I don't know if it's okay with you. But for me, it's okay. Because that is my divine purpose. To be the best expression of the Christ that I can be. To be the very best I can be. And the best that I can be is to allow Spirit to flow through me to give the world the light touch. That's the best. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to that metaphor of the caterpillar and the butterfly. And we are a little bit like that little caterpillar because it is not apparent to us in this human state what it is we are to become. And yet, unlike the caterpillar, we have those vague stirrings within. They're fleeting, but they're there. There is a pull of the universe that takes us ever upward, onward and upward to the heights of our divine nature. And if you are at all spiritually aware, you are aware of that. Those little urgings that say, come on, let's go. Let's go onward. Let's go upward. Let's be better. Let's reinvent our lives. It seems that every season of the year, I have a new way to invent my life. Well, what is that? It's that God in here speaking to me, that desire of the Father comes to me. Sometimes I wonder, where did that all come from? How did that get into my ordinary thinking, everyday mind? Well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have a hard time because my thinking goes around in circles. Does yours ever go that way? And then I have to sit myself down and I have to say, okay, I'm going within. And I'm going to find the answer. I'm going to discover. I'm going to take off the cover of what is there, and the answer will be there. So the other day, oh, do I digress? The other day, when I was having a challenge, a problem, call it a problem. I could not get the answer to, what do I do about this? I knew what I wanted, but I couldn't get to the answer. What am I going to do about this? And I'm stewing and fretting, and suddenly I thought, oh, all I need to do is go with him. It's so simple. So I sat down and I just began to follow my breath. And it wasn't long before the answer came. It was natural, it was perfect. It was as if a door had been opened and I could see farther than I could ever have imagined. And I was seeing from a different perspective. I had my answer. Amazing. But is it amazing? Not really. No. Divine mind is there for us all the time. And that is this will that wants us to have the answers, that wants us to have the good in this life. So now am I going to go back to the butterfly again? Well, we are like that, and yet we aren't. We're not like that little caterpillar because there are these things within us that say, open up. Live your life. It is a good life. Enjoy it. If you're not doing it now, when are you going to get to it? It's now. Right now. So God's will for us is good. We are just a little bit like that caterpillar. Let's be a little bit unlike it. Just be a little bit more aware of what we are to become. These radiant, perfect patterns